right, let's see if we can get this last bit completed. So now we're going to be working with formulas. So formulas are a little bit trickier because you got more variables that you're working with, and it just gives for more confusion. So first of all, just a couple of examples of formulas that you might see out in the world. So you have d equals rt, so distance equals rate times time. C equals pi d, so circumference equals pi times its diameter. P equals 2L plus 2W, so perimeter equals twice the length plus twice the width. And I equals PRT, so interest equals the principal times the rate times the time. So we'll be actually seeing some of these formulas as we go. So the big question is how do we solve a formula for a different variable? And the answer is using the same properties that we've been using. So let's see how it works. All right, so we have A equals 1/2 BH, and we want to solve this formula for H. So we're trying to get H all by itself. Now, the first thing that sticks out in this problem is, in this formula, is the 1/2. Fractions. We don't like fractions. But here's a trick that you can use to get rid of the fractions right off the bat, first step. Now, because there's only one fraction and the denominator is 2, let's multiply both sides of the equation by 2. So we're going to have something that looks like this. So on the left-hand side, we're just wrapping the a in parentheses and we're multiplying it by 2. We're going to do the same thing on the right-hand side. So we got 2 times 1/2 BH. Now, on the left-hand side, we're really not doing much. There's not canceling anything out or anything, so we can remove the parentheses and just write this as 2a. However, on the right-hand side, if we think of this 2 as being 2 over 1, then we can do a little cross-canceling. So the 2's are going to cancel each other out completely, and all those 1's, we don't even need them anymore. So the only thing left is just the b and the h. So we're going to write that down on the right-hand side. So now we have a very simplified formula. So if we want to get h by itself, though, how would we get rid of this b that's attached to it by multiplication? Yeah, we're going to have to divide. So if we take the 2a and divide it by b, and the bh and divide that by b, the b's are going to cancel, and all you have left is the h, and then you got this mess on the other side. So h equals 2a over b. Not too bad, right? Hopefully. Well, let's take a look at the next one. Eugh. S equals 2 times pi times r times h. So all those four pieces are multiplied together, plus 2 times pi times r to the second power, r squared. We're trying to get h by itself, though. Well, what can we do with this? Well, this whole thing has got these values multiplied onto the h. So we really don't want to mess with that yet. But if we think back to the other problems, we got rid of stuff that was added and subtracted first. So this whole thing here, this 2 pi r to the second power, is added on. There's no h's in it. So let's get rid of it by moving it to the other side, the whole thing. So if we subtract 2 pi r to the second power on the right-hand side and the same thing on the left, that's a legal maneuver. It stays balanced. So it cancels off completely on the right. So on the left, we just got to be careful how we write it. So let's put the s first, and then we'll put the minus 2 pi r to the second power. And then on the right-hand side, we got 2 pi r h all by itself now. Well, how do we get rid of all this stuff that's multiplied onto the h? You got it again. We got to divide it. So if we divide by, and we can divide by the whole thing, 2 pi r h divided by 2 pi r. All of those things are going to cancel. The 2's cancel, the pi's and the r. So the only thing left is the h, which is what we want. Now over here, you're saying, well, can't we cancel all that? Well, you got to be careful because this 2 pi r is also underneath the s. So we'd have to do a little bit of splitting and then canceling, and I don't even want to worry about it. So instead of doing all that, let's just write it as one big old fraction. Doesn't look pretty. It looks like it can cancel stuff down, but don't. Just leave it like that, and you should be fine. So that's solved for h. All right, let's try one more solved for h. Okay, so we got a equals 2hw plus 2lw plus 2lh. So again, we're solving for h. So we can see that there's two things that have h's in them, but there's one that doesn't. So if there's something that doesn't and it's added on or subtracted, we can move that to the other side first. So let's subtract it from both sides, and that cancels that out completely. And just like we did up above, let's just put the a in front of the minus. And then we'll keep the other two pieces. Now, well, we got two h's. We don't want two h's, we want one h. So that way we can get it by itself. So how can we reconfigure that? Well, it turns out we're going to want to use the distributive property. So remember, the distributive property looks something like this. So if we got something that is outside of a sum, we can distribute it in. But this property works in both directions. So if we have something that looks like this, we can rewrite it like that. So we can kind of put those two a's together into a single a as long as we group together the other remaining pieces. So let's do that here. Now we can't do anything more with the left, but look, here's that h, and here's the other h. That's kind of like our a in these two pieces. So if we pull that out in front, now we just got to state what's left after we pull it out. So if we pull out this h, what's left is just the 2 and the w. And over here, if we pull the h out, we're just left with the 2 and the l. So that should be equivalent. And we can check it. If we multiplied the h back in, we'd have to distribute it to both parts. So we would get back this same result. So now we have just a single h, which is what we wanted. But now we got this big mess here that's attached to it. But how is it attached to it? It's attached by multiplication. This h is multiplied by this whole quantity. So if we want to get rid of that whole quantity, we're going to divide it again. And we got to divide it on both sides. So this whole thing cancels with this whole thing. And now we're home free. So we got h is equal to, h is equal to a minus 2lw all over 2w plus 2l. These ones can be tricky. And I know I make it look easy, but like I said, try to take your time. Use the adding and subtracting part first. When there's fractions, that kind of trumps everything though. Get rid of those fractions first, then add, subtract, and then divide. And that should get you to your answer. You might have to do a little bit of, distributive property in reverse, but see what you can do. All right. Next section is going to be the fun one. We got lots of word problems. Yay. We'll get you through it. Take care.